This is really gonna bust up some fucking people, and they're just gonna be, the tears are gonna flow.
I don't care what anybody says.
Go on, lay it on me, roast me.
I'm more of a positive guy.
Yeah, I have an unpopular opinion here.
Height. One hot take that will definitely send people after me to revoke my metal card.
It's other shit.
Ja, bare en gang bunke lort.
I mean, fucking hell.
Stop that bullshit.
This one I like.
Kiss is like for 7 or 9 years old.
It's an opinion. We all have them. We all like different things.
If you still can't take it, you know what we say at the Merciful Metal channel. Bye.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Hot Takes and Unpopular Opinions videos, where we have a look at your unpopular opinions and hot takes and have a little bit of fun while sticking it to the people who think that in order to be a good fan of whatever it is we're talking about, you have to have certain opinions, you have to like certain things, you have to dislike certain things. Because that's just a load of garbage. So let's have a look at some of your hot takes and unpopular opinions. Let's start with Tainted Lord 87 himself, who says that my hot take that instantly sprung to mind is that As I Lay Dying's Through Storms Ahead is not that terrible. Fear Factory's Digimortal is also a good album and a grower. If we start with Fear Factory, I know this is an album that a lot of people don't like, and I have to admit, I am one of those people. I do have it in my collection. I've listened to it a bunch of times now, and it just doesn't click with me. I find it kind of bland, and I find it not as interesting as their very early output. So it's very reassuring to me to learn that it's a grower, because maybe with enough listens, I'll learn how to appreciate it. Maybe it will click with me. So yeah, that's very reassuring. But for now, I'm just one of those mindless sheep that don't like that album. When it comes to As I Lay Dying, that's a band I was never really interested in. I've heard a bunch of their songs, and yeah, they're like metalcore, deathcore songs, which means that they're full of just, features that I just don't like, because deathcore, metalcore, that's two genres that I just happen not to like. It's nothing against the genres per se. It's nothing against the people who like those genres. It's nothing against the artists within those genres. I just don't like those genres. I just don't like the music. It just so happens. So I don't know whether Through Storms Ahead is a good album or a bad album. I don't know whether you're supposed to like it or not. But I can gather that it's an album a lot of people probably don't like, and maybe it's an album you're supposed to dislike. But some people like it, and that's great, including Tainted Lord 87, who thinks that it's not that terrible. So that is awesome. Although I don't know that album at all, and I'm not interested in it, but if you like it, that's great. When we talk As I Lay Dying, I guess we have to talk about artists that behave badly, and we have to talk about separating the art from the artist. Trevor Hickey makes this observation.
Between metalcore and deathcore is just the more annoying fucking death metal version of it. Like, everybody's trying to say that fucking like Suicide Silence started that stuff. No, that was the breakdown in Liege of Inverosity from Suffocation, right? Like, everybody wants to go on and on about, oh, deathcore and metalcore are both great. Well, here's the problem about your great. How come they're fucking full of douchebag fucking human beings? Why is it that you have to be women abusers? Why do you have to be animal abusers? Why do you have to just fucking open your goddamn mouth? Just write your shit and go to fuck home. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, Tim Lambesis, that's all I gotta say.
I was not a fan of As I Lay Dying, as I just mentioned, but the person that Trevor mentions did have kind of a side project called Austrian Death Machine. And that was a really cool and fun kind of crossover thrash metal project. Uh, they put out 3 albums, and all the songs were Arnold Schwarzenegger themed. So they dealt with, Arnie's movies or other things associated with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And they had lots of just Arnie one-liners all over the place. They had people doing Arnold Schwarzenegger impressions. And the music was actually pretty damn solid. I loved the 2 first albums. But when I learned about a certain hitman situation, a certain situation where a hitman was hired to kill this person's uh, ex-wife, I think, a wife, I don't remember. But when I learned about that, I just couldn't listen to those 2 Austrian Death Machine albums and enjoy the music. I got annoyed at the music because of that. So, in that particular case, I was not good at, and I didn't even try to be honest, separating the art from the artist. In fact, what I knew about the artist and what I learned about the artist made it so that I could not enjoy the art or the music. And Morten Ostad in the next clip is kind of struggling with a very similar situation. Check it out.
I always promised I would not stop listening to, reading, or watching the movies of an artist, a singer, filmmaker, and so on, because that person, for example, has been cancelled due to opinions or due to being old-fashioned and maybe going honk honk or something like that. And I think I've been fairly in line with that. I mean, I recently bought this record, and I'm not going to claim that I like in any way or fashion Mr. Ted Nugent. And I will never stop praising and praying at the altar of Woody Allen, although people have done so. Sorry, Woody Allen is my movie hero, and I believe him, and that's the way it goes. And I've been watching him since my dad took me somewhat kicking and screaming to see one of his movies when I was very little. The science fiction movie I wanted to say had a 12-year age limit, and I think I at this time was 7 or 8. It wasn't this one. I think we went and saw, was it Manhattan or was it Annie Hall? I can't remember, but I loved it, and my dad was really surprised. So we would always watch Woody Allen movies together. But I said I will keep listening to bands, and I will keep watching movies and reading books and seeing the art of people, even if they turn out to be monsters, because the art is not at fault. How can I explain the fact that I have not been listening to any of these CDs that I'm holding in my hand ever since I heard what happened to the singer of this band? I'm not going to say his name, but if you Google the band, it's a Welsh band. They came about, they broke through in some early 2001s, and it's the Lost Prophets. I cannot say anything really about why this band doesn't exist anymore and what happened to the person fronting this band, because we're on YouTube and you'll just have to find that out for yourself. I kind of told myself that, you're probably never going to listen to these records again, because it just reminds you of this person's atrocious actions. I still have them. And why do I still have them? Well, it's first of all because I collect music and I like seeing the numbers go up, I suppose. It's kind of a memory of, I think I bought these records, the first one, very sort of mid to late 2002. One of the very first CDs I bought when I moved back to Oslo to go to school after having lived in Denmark for 7 years. And the final reason is that this band is from Wales, and it's not Wales' fault, and I love Wales, and I love owning Welsh music.
So first of all, I actually didn't know about this band. I didn't know about this particular individual member of that band, and I didn't know about this case. I made the mistake of looking it up, and boy, was that disturbing and downright disgusting. And one thing that, well, everything was shocking about that case, but one thing that was particularly shocking was that there were some kind of accomplices, and what they did was very shocking. The whole thing was disgusting, and I would not be able to listen to anything by this artist and enjoy it. Now, at the end of the day, what it seems that what Morton is really kind of struggling with here is sticking to the principle that you have to separate the art from the artist because the art is not to blame for the artist's behavior. Sticking to that while at the same time dealing with the reality that here you have an artist who did something so disgusting that you can't enjoy their art. And I didn't include this in the clip, but throughout the clip, Morton keeps asking himself whether he's a hypocrite or not for, you know, not sticking to that principle that you have to separate the art from the artist, and also for still having those CDs in his collection when he doesn't listen to them because he can't enjoy uh, this artist's output anymore. I don't think it's hypocrisy at all. I think Morton is just being honest with himself, and that can only be a good thing. Now, personally, I actually disagree with the idea that you have to separate the art from the artist. And I know this is a very unpopular opinion, in particular within a lot of music fandoms. But what I disagree with is not the separate the art from the artist part of it. It's the you have to part. You have to separate the art from the artist. You must. You should. That's the part I disagree with because, why should anybody tell you what to do? You know what I mean? It's up to you whether you want to separate the art from the artist, whether you can do it or not. Um, it's all up to you. If you separate the art from the artist because you want to, that's great for you. No problem with me there. If you don't separate the art from the artist because you don't want to, or maybe because it's just not possible for you to do it, fine, no problem there either. None of my business. You know what I mean? It's up to you. Personally, I'm just inconsistent. Like, I can't enjoy anything by Austrian Death Machine because of, this Hitman thing, and certainly not now with all the stuff that came out recently. But I can enjoy Leadbelly's music, although he straight up stabbed someone to death in prison. So I'm very inconsistent there, and my take on it is it's up to you and your personal moral compass, and it's nobody's business. So yeah, I have probably a very unpopular opinion myself on separating the art from the artist because to me, no, you don't have to. It's up to you. None of my business. And now we have no less than 4 hot takes, unpopular opinions from the legend BVD himself. And there is kind of a theme that runs through these, and that's basically albums that everybody hates, basically. So the first one is Seasons in the Abyss is Slayer's best album. I was a little bit surprised to see this as a hot take because I genuinely thought that Seasons in the Abyss was a very popular Slayer album, but maybe it's the idea that it's their best album that's unpopular. Because I do believe that a lot of Slayer fans prefer their early stuff. On Seasons in the Abyss, they slow down and they go into much more atmospheric territory. Um, I think there's only like one really fast song. The rest is kind of mid-paced and kind of slow. So I can imagine why a lot of Slayer fans would not like that album. But at the same time, it has a lot of Slayer's most iconic guitar parts. So I think it's the idea that it's their best album that is unpopular here. Personally, this was the first Slayer album I heard, and I did not like that album at all the first time I heard it because that's not what I expected. I wanted something fast and aggressive, and I got this slow to mid-paced, atmospheric kind of stuff, quite dark stuff. So for the longest time, I didn't even like Slayer just because of this one album. Uh, so I got into Slayer much later when I decided to give them another chance because it's just one album I don't like, give them another chance. And I ended up, liking this album quite a lot, and I ended up liking all their earlier output, and I ended up liking their subsequent output too. But because I wasn't into Slayer from the beginning, I didn't have the attachment to the early Slayer output that a lot of old time fans have. So that means that I never rejected the latter day Slayer output, like Christ Illusion and so on and so forth. And in some ways, I actually like latter day Slayer better than early Slayer. That does not mean I don't like early Slayer. I love early Slayer. I just like latter day Slayer a tad more, and this is because of the vocals, because Tom Araya sounds like an angry, bitter old man uh, on their latter day output, and his voice is more gravelly and more aged, and there's just something about that just I just really like with that type of music. So, Seasons in the Abyss, do I think it's their best album? I don't even know because I haven't even thought of ranking their albums. But anyone who thinks it's Slayer's best album, power to you. The next hot take from BBD is Cold Lake is a really good hard rock glam album. So Cold Lake is a Celtic Frost album, and it's one of the most hated metal albums, I think, of all time. Even people involved in Celtic Frost hate that album. They've kind of disowned it, and it's the only Celtic Frost album that hasn't been reissued yet. And BVD thinks it's a really good hard rock glam metal album, and I agree. I don't think it's a bad album. I think it's a pretty good album. It's not my favorite Celtic Frost album. That would be Vanity Nemesis, which is also, I think, a quite unpopular opinion. For some reason, I love Vanity Nemesis. I also do love their really early kind of post Hellhammer, kind of similar to Hellhammer output. And I particularly really like their avant-garde uh, output. And also Monotheist, I think that's a masterpiece. But Cold Lake, I think it's a pretty good album. I've always enjoyed listening to it, and I would go as far as saying that although they have a glam metal look on that album, and one of them, for some reason, uh, has forgotten how to zip his pants. Just check out the picture on the back. I don't even think it's a glam metal album musically. I think it's a heavy metal album. And if you listen to the vocals, and even some of the songs themselves and the kind of the production, it still sounds kind of creepy and unsettling in a way. So I think Cold Lake is a pretty good heavy metal album. So I'm with BBD there. I like Cold Lake. Okay, the next take from BBD is The Ritual is a top 5 Testament album. Whether it's a top 5 Testament album, I don't know because I haven't thought about ranking their albums at all. But whether or not it's a good album, I think it's a pretty damn good album. It's the Testament, it's Testament's their version of the Black Album. And as far as I understand, it was like it came into being under a lot of pressure from the record label. But they managed to put together pretty damn good, solid, straight up heavy metal album. And while it's a quite unpopular Testament album, I think it's the Testament album out of all their albums that has, to me, just the best opening. Just sounds big So the two first tracks I think are the best tracks you could start any album with, or some of the best tracks. I'm not a Sith. I don't deal in absolutes. I'd like to think, but some of the best tracks you could start an album with. So whether it's a top 5 album, I don't know. Uh, literally, I don't know. But is it a great album? I think it is. The songs are awesome, and the guitar tone is awesome, and the vocals are great. So I think it's a pretty damn good album. Now, there's another album in Testament's discography that is unpopular, namely Demonic, but Demonic actually has its fans too. Check out what Metal Never Dies has to say about Demonic.
I saw one guy defending this album, and I'm gonna defend this album as well, because I'm tired of seeing this like in the bottom. I think I ranked it close to the bottom as well, because you can't deny this band's discography. And that's Testament, and then the album is Demonic. You can't go wrong with this album. It's different from all of Testament's other albums. Only Eric Peterson and Chuck Billy are on here. And they went for more of a death metal approach on this album. So it's kind of like death thrash and groove mixed in together. And I think this was like just something that they had to make before they made The Gathering, which is my favorite Testament album. And I think they needed to make this, so this gave them a good pre-work before they making The Gathering, because that, like, you get death metal, you get thrash, you get groove on that album, you get some great melodic stuff. I know Dave Lombardo's on there and James Murphy's on that album, but this album was a fun one too, man. There's a lot of great tracks on here. A lot of people hate it for some reason. I think it's awesome. This is the first Testament album that I ever got into, right? And a buddy of mine got me into this album with Burning Time. Like he showed me that song and I was hooked.
You know what? S&T Young, he likes Demonic too. Check this out.
Demonic by Testament, released in '97. This album to me I still go to this one quite a bit. Love every track. Demonic Refusal is awesome. The Burning Times, Jun, John Doe, Murky Waters, New Eyes of Old. But it's another one of those albums that just sounds like a garage. They just like Saint Anger by Metallica. They just stripped it all down and went in the recording studio and made a raw death thrash album. I don't know, it has a little bit of a new metal sound to it as well, some groove, but it's predominantly got that really dark, sinister element to that. I really fucking
There you go. Demonic has its fans, The Ritual has its fans. That's great. The last hot take from BVD is that Ram It Down is a great Judas Priest album. Now, Ram It Down came after Turbo, but as far as I understand, they were supposed to be kind of released together as a double album. Turbo was incredibly unpopular back in the day, but I think a lot of people have kind of changed their minds on it. I've always liked Turbo. Ram It Down does have a bit of a kind of an artificial sounding, just drumming style, to the point that a lot of people, and I don't see why this shouldn't be true, a lot of people suspect that it's a drum machine that they used. But I have to agree with the BVD here. I like Ram It Down. I've always liked it. I think it has some good, catchy heavy metal songs on it. Fantastic vocals, great guitar riffs as well, and just some like good heavy metal songs. Some of them are a little bit more hard rocky. The drumming, yeah, that's the downside, I think, to the album, but it's not enough to make it a stinker like a lot of people think it is. And they have the right to have that opinion, but I disagree with it too. I would even go as far as saying that their cover version of Johnny Be Good is a great cover version. Most people hate that song, or that cover version of it, but it's always been a mystery to me because they do what I think at least a cover song should do. They make it into a Judas Priest sounding song. and I appreciate that. So I enjoy listening to their version of Johnny Be Good, and I like the whole Ram It Down album too. So there you go. The next hot take is from Attack from Down Under. He says, Guns N' Roses, Kiss, Mötley Crüe, massively overrated. And you know what? Let's give Attack from Down Under a chance to elaborate a little bit on this himself. Check this out.
3 bands come to mind that I just think are completely overrated for me. And the first band would have to be this band here, Guns N' Roses. So I've been with them right from their first release, Appetite for Destruction. I jumped on that one. But for me, I sort of think they've got maybe 2 albums worth of material. If you put these albums together, there'd be 1 album worth of good material that I really play now, as well as Appetite for Destruction. So I just think they could have done more, you know, for how they're regarded and the little that they've got out there. I think in that regard, for me, they are overrated. Second bands that I think are overrated for me would have to be Mötley Crüe. These are all my cassettes here I've got here. I like to collect Mötley Crüe on cassette because my brother used to play them when he was driving me around before I had my license. I think he got his license before me, I'm not sure, he might have done. And he had all these old cassettes in his car, and I did, even though at the time I didn't say it to him, but I did quite grow to like all these old cassettes. Just going forward from the early albums, there's not a lot I like, and I just don't see why they've still got basically a career, you know. The third one's probably one that I know is just gets like a fanatical following, and I can understand why they like the band, but I just do not understand why they're just as blown up as they are. And that band is Kiss. I have tried. I've had this since it first came out, this compilation. I did play it quite a bit at the time. This was my starting point, and then I got Crazy Crazy Nights. I did like that, though I know it's not one that a lot of fans talk about. But then when they did Hot in the Shade, I listened to that and I just thought it was the worst. And it was just like, for me it was like they just put in no effort on it. So I listened to that and basically I was pretty much done with Kiss. But then coming on YouTube and just watching everyone's videos and how they talk about them like they're great, I don't get it, so I don't get it.
And he's not the only one who feels like that about at least 2 of these artists. Check out this clip from Stormwind 79.
If you really like these bands, more power to you. I like these bands too, except I just think they are massively overrated, in my opinion. Massively overhyped. And they are Guns N' Roses and Mötley Crüe. So sorry everyone. Yeah, like I said, I am a fan. Guns N' Roses, this album, Appetite for Destruction, the debut, is absolutely brilliant. It's, as Cavernous Carnage said, it's bitchin'. It's awesome. It's 10 out of 10. Just so much dirt and swagger and that in the gutter feeling of, you know, sleazy hard rock. Absolutely fantastic. There's no bad songs on this. But with Guns N' Roses, I just have to say, after this album, I completely lost interest. As I've mentioned, Lies had a few good songs, but it was Sick Boy says in Trainspotting. It's good, but it's not great, is it? You know, like, so that's what I think. So, like, bits and pieces of Lies I like. And then after that, the Illusion albums, Chinese Democracy, no, I'm not interested at all. So, in my opinion, this is the only really good album they've done. Of course, they're really talented musicians, like Slash is a great guitarist and everything, but it's about how do you enjoy the songs? How do you feel when you listen to them? For me, it's only this album. And I always hear people getting so hyped and pumped up over Guns N' Roses, and that's great, but just for me, I don't get all that excited, to be honest. And the same with Mötley Crüe. Again, I obviously like the band because I own the albums, but I just think the best albums were the first 5, you know, from Too Fast to Love until Dr. Feelgood. There are bits and pieces after that, which I do like, but even in relation to the first 5 albums, nothing to do with the band's current terrible performances and lip syncing and all of that stuff. Not very good new material. But just in general, I even find like, yes, I really like the first 5 albums, but the way people just like glorify this band and say they're absolutely brilliant and godlike, I just don't see it. Like, fun band, good band, but I just don't think they're as brilliant as everyone says they is. But anyway, I know people might say, how's your band going? Yes, I don't have one, but just because I don't play in a band doesn't mean I'm not entitled to an opinion about music.
So the difference between the two is that Stormwind79 is a big Kiss fan, so obviously he doesn't see Kiss as being overrated. Do I think these bands are overrated? Well, first of all, I have my I guess I hesitate to use the terms overrated and underrated because it really just to me means it's something I like that nobody else likes, or it's something I don't like that everybody else likes. So I don't know about the overrated part. That's just my own doubts. Um, but in a way, yeah, Guns N' Roses put out Appetite for Destruction as was pointed out, and I think that's a fantastic album. Um, it's a hard rock classic, and I love the music so much in that album that it doesn't bother me that I don't like the vocals, if I'm being honest. I never liked the vocals, but the music is so great that I really enjoy that album. But yeah, they don't have a whole lot of albums in their discography. And Usual Illusion to me are those two albums are kind of bloated. They have a lot of great songs on them, but I think they're kind of bloated overall. And the other output doesn't really interest me. So whether that means they're overrated, I don't know. But it means that it's just a small portion of their output that I actually like, if I think about it. With Kiss, I was never a big Kiss fan. Doesn't mean I don't like him. It's just one of those bands I never took the time to explore. So I've heard a lot of their songs, like on the radio, and back when MTV actually meant something. And some of them I like, some of them I don't like. I have it's a Creatures of the Night on cassette tape, thanks to Garage Geek, and I think that's actually a great album. I've heard some songs that I think are garbage as well from Kiss, so I don't have any strong opinion on Kiss. Mötley Crüe, overrated. Again, I don't know, are they overrated? I actually really like their early output up until and definitely including their self-titled. I think their self-titled is their best album. I know that's an unpopular opinion. But everything almost they put up until and including that album I like, apart from Theater of Pain. Is it Theater of Pain? I suddenly forgot. I think it is. In any case, I think that's a boring album. But apart from that, I like everything they put out back then. Even Girls, 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 that's another album that I've heard a lot of people trash. I like that album too. The two first albums are fantastic as well. Dr. Feelgood is probably my favorite Vince Neil fronted Motley Crue album. But anything they put out after that doesn't interest me, doesn't appeal to me, means nothing to me, doesn't move me when I listen to songs from that output. And what they put out, an EP with 3 songs recently that I think are just bland too. So again, does it mean that they are overrated? I don't know, but it means that I only like a portion of their output. So there you go. Now, Attack from Down Under has another hot take here. Judas Priest, Demolition, and Jugulator are decent Priest albums. I think they're more than decent. And I know that's a hot take and an unpopular opinion because most people hate those two albums. They had a different vocalist. The guitar tone is considerably heavier. And especially Demolition is unpopular because they went quite heavy on that album. I think they're both great albums, to be honest, and I think Ripper Owens did a great job on those albums. I think they're absolutely fantastic, and to me, I think it's a shame that those two albums they're kind of disowned now by Judas Priest, and I think that's a shame because I think they're great albums in my opinion. I enjoy listening to them as much as I enjoy listening to, the majority of the Rob Halford fronted Judas Priest albums. There's only one Judas Priest album that I don't enjoy that much, and that's Point of Entry. So yeah, there you go. Some interesting hot takes. We went into a little bit of, I guess, unpleasant territory here with artists behaving badly. So, yeah, there you go. Until next time, thanks for watching.
It's warm here. Oh God.